In my concept sketches, I have these large vents that fit up on top of some of the buildings. Let's go ahead and work on that. So once again, to do that, I'll go to a new layer in Blender. And I think we can use a Bezier curve again for this vent structure. It's just a large pipe, so I think this will work. Let's arrange the points of our Bezier curve to try and get that shape that we're looking for. I think I'll rotate this one up, and maybe this one is going to move like this. Now I'll try and just move the actual curve handles to see if I can get a curve that works for us here. And let's use the curves panel the same way we did with the other pipes. I'll go ahead and change the fill to full, and I'll come down here to the depth and click and drag in that field. And let's see what we can get. So here's the beginning of that pipe, or that vent. I'll increase the resolution a bit, something like that. Now that's 4. This is 2. I'm going to go ahead and use 4. It looks a little better, I think. But if we press the Z key, we can see what the geometry is going to look like when we convert it to a polygon. The main test for this is how it's going to look on top of one of the buildings. So let's bring a building back, and let's just test it. Let's just bring this up and see how it's going to look. I'll kind of center it a bit here. And right now it's a little thin and a little tall. I'm going to increase the depth, something like that. And also if I hit the Tab key, I can once again work with these Bezier points here, these handles. And maybe I'll move this down a bit. Kind of try and adjust these some to get the shape that we want. So I think that looks a little better. I'm going to go ahead and center that up again. And yeah, I think that's looking about the way I want it. So at this point, I would probably go ahead and convert it to a polygon mesh. So let's try that. I'm going to go ahead and hide that building. And now that I've got this selected in object mode, I'll come back over here to the object menu, go up to convert, and let's convert this to a mesh. Now if I hit the Tab key, we can see the actual polygons of the object. And now we can do a little bit of work to get it to fit onto the top of the building. I'll go back to object mode and select this first layer again. And now let's work on creating a base rim to fit along here at the top. So for this, I'll just select this edge and maybe bring it up just a bit. And then I'll press E and click, and then I'll press the S key to scale and move this out a bit. And then E and bring it down. So something like that. Now in addition, we need to close this part off. I'll select this edge, and I also want to create a bit of a rim for this too. I'm going to push this back in a hair, and then press E and click, and then the S key again and scale out. And E and click and pull it back out just a little. And then E and scale in. And then extrude again and push back in. So there we've got that rim there. And I think I'll also bring this in with one more extrusion here. Now we should create these slats on the vent pipes here. So let's use the array modifier to create those. To begin with, I'm going to move the 3D cursor to a point in the center of this hole here. I'll select this edge by pressing Alt and selecting one of the edges, and then I'm going to press Shift S and move the cursor to the selected components, and that pops the cursor into the center of that circle there. Now when I come over to the Create tab and create a cube, it automatically pops right into the center of that. I'm going to use the Scale tool just to get it down to the size of one of those slats, and maybe something like this. I'll scale it out to the width of the vent here, and we should probably tilt it out just a bit, like so. Now I'm going to move this piece down to the very bottom here. It's going to kind of stick out the ends, but that's okay for now. And what I'd like to do is duplicate this up to the top of the vent hole right here. So I'm going to use the Array modifier. So with this selected, I'm going to go to the Modifiers panel and choose Add Modifier and come up here to Array. And now if I take this count number here and just click and drag, you can see it's going to create multiple objects from that one main object. So it's creating 29, 30 objects here. I don't need that many. I'm going to begin with maybe 10 or 11. And then I can use the relative offset. This is X, Y, and Z. And I can begin to adjust these, click and drag in here to adjust how they are arranged. So I'm going to adjust this up like this and adjust the Z a bit. So I've got 11 there. Maybe I'll try 12. That's not bad. Let me move this down a bit, see if I can fit these in here. And I can just move this original object around and everything else will come along. So now that I have my vents in place, I'm going to go ahead and click Apply here in the Array modifier, and that will make all of those all one object now. Now I just need to fit these within the hole of the vent. So I'm going to tab into Edit Mode, and I'll just select the top and bottom here. I'm just going to hover over this and press the L key and the L key here to select all linked faces. And I'll just scale these in as best I can right now. Like something like that. And I'll do the same for the next two here and here. And just begin scaling these in like that. Now I've got a few edges sticking out the back here, so I'm just going to select a face here and just scale these in until they're hidden. Like that. And a few down here as well. And there we go. So we've got our vents in place. Now, the problem I'm seeing here with this is that if the character is going to be down here looking up at the vents, we can see into the pipe here, and we can see into the back of the polygons. The problem is that in a game engine, we can see through the back of the polygons. So we'll be able to see up through the vent and up to the sky, and that won't be good. So we need to make sure we can't see through the back of polygons here. So I'll select this pipe now and go to Edge Mode. And this edge looks like it's still selected, so I'll just scale this back out a bit. And I'll take this and move it back. I'll press the Z key to go to wireframe, and now I'll move this down and maybe even rotate it a bit so that we get kind of an interior of the pipe. I'll extrude again, pull this down and back and rotate it as well. So now we can see into the pipe, but we can only see the front of polygons there. That's all we needed to do, is just make sure that there's some sort of an internal structure there that we're not seeing through the back of the polygons. All right, so our last bit of business here for the vent pipe is just to make sure we've got these two objects selected and combined. Now it looks to me like I've got the vents or the vent slats here on layer 1. I'm going to go ahead and move that. So I'll press M, move it to here, and now we should have it all on the same layer. I'll select both pieces, press Ctrl J to combine them, and I'll call this Vent 1. Now as you can see, I'm getting some strangeness in the shading here, and that's mainly because Blender is trying to smooth these very sharp angles. If I switched over to flat shading, you can see that these are very sharp angles, and it's just having a little trouble with that. There are some ways that we can fix that, but what I need to do is really see how it looks in Unity first before I come back and spend some time on this. And that's one of the beauties, I think, of using this kind of workflow from the very beginning, is using Blender and Unity side by side. So I'm not going to spend time tweaking that quite yet. Let's take it into Unity first, and then we'll deal with tweaking any problems we might find like this. So we have a couple of more small accessories to create for our environment. We'll do that coming up next.